Well, then let's just get rolling, Duane.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, it's good to be here. Even though it's April and we had rain yesterday and snow this morning. It's April, early April in Northern Illinois. Guess what? Anything goes.
Anything can happen. And next week they're talking 60 degrees and
sunshine.
And sunshine, yes.
Which I'm like, okay, great. Means, okay, I'm glad I prepped my lawnmower last week.
Oh, I haven't even my snowblower is still hooked up to my compact tractor. I haven't even taken it off yet. And it's just like, oh, come on. And the funny thing is you look out at these lawns and they are greening up.
Oh, we got some warm weather. We had a little rain. It gets warm now, and you're going to be able to go out there and measure it day by day and watch it grow.
Yep. It's
going to hit, and all of a sudden it's going to be like, now I need to mow. And so I was a good boy. I got my lawnmower out, changed the oil, changed the plugs, changed the air filter, fuel filter. I still have to grease it up. I've got new blades ready to go on after I mow a couple of times.
Yeah, get all the sticks broke up onto the old ones.
Garbage chopped up. And,
agreed.
The pieces of bark and whatever else is out there and then I'll change the blades out and I'll be good to go for the year.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I wait till I pick up all the sticks I can get, but all the little itty bitty twigs,
little stuff,
mow them over 3-4 times, then switch them out to new blades or sharpened blades at that point. Put them on.
Well, usually by the time I go a year on mine, the blades are pretty well
shot,
beat up. I've got, not a lot of people know this. I've got close to 1.5 acres of lawn. It doesn't look it, but you go all the way around the buildings and then back. There's a lot of area
and everything else.
Ditches. There's a lot of area to cut, and actually, I kind of like mowing my lawn. Nobody bothers me. Being married for almost 38 years, but I go say I'm mowing lawn unless there's a major catastrophe. My wife doesn't bother me.
You're out there just doing what you want to do,
and it's life is good then. I have my mug of water or my cup of coffee, and I'm a happy camper. But that keeps it, keeps us young and alive and keeps a happy home. So that's important.
It is important, and it in her defense, it gives her time away from you too.
Well, yeah. I mean, she married me when I was in my late 20s, farming a bunch, increased the farmland, all the other activities, and she stuck with me through thick, thin, and ups and downs for almost 38 years. She ought to be nominated for sainthood. And I've told her that to her face, and she's like, no, you weren't that bad. I said, well, I had my moments.
Everybody's got their moments. You are 100% correct on that. So that's when you started farming? Was when you were...
No, I started farming right out of high school, in 1975.
Was that grain farming then, or
we had grain and we had at that time farrow to finish pigs.
Oh
yeah, that was always fun. No, it wasn't.
How many hogs did you have around there then?
At that time, we were pushing out to market about 300 a year.
Oh, it was enough to keep you busy then.
Oh, yeah. And it was all older, smaller facilities. Eventually, my dad and I got away from farrow to finish, and we just started buying feeders and going feed to finish. And when we were doing that, we were putting out about 1,200 head a year. So, yeah, we were busy.
Well, you can put out more a year because you don't have to worry so much about sows and how you're going to maintain and take care of them. And did you have like sow crates and all that kind of stuff back then, or did they just kind of okay?
Yeah, we had some crates, and we had some in an older building. We had some bigger pens, so we had a mix. But it was still a lot of work. Which sows to keep, which to ship, getting them bred, all the fun stuff with that.
Did you AI them, or did you have boars then on hand?
We had boars on hand. And buying a boar always got to be a challenge. With any kind of livestock, there's issues, and hope for the best, and we did very well for a long time.
Well, plus the winters back then were a little more harsh than what they are today, too.
Yes.
And it's got colder earlier and stayed colder longer and stayed cold.
So
you had to make sure that those waters weren't froze every day and they were getting enough feed and the farrowing houses were warm enough and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, it was a very time-consuming, very labor-intensive process. Loved it. Learned a lot about everything: plumbing, electricity, carpentry, how to fix and whatever, and taking a hog crate apart and when it was done and re-welding and get it back installed for the next go-round.
Right.
So it was always fun, and hog manure, like any manure, has a lot of acids in it. It doesn't, and metals don't like that. So there was always a little degradation there.
Well, and I think the other thing about hog manure too is it seems to stick to yourself a lot harder and stronger than any other manure in the world. It seems like you get it on your hands and it could take you 2 days to get that smell off your hands.
At a certain point, you just become so immune to it.
Correct.
But then when you go to somebody's house and they go, it's like, oops, maybe I didn't get everything scrubbed 3 times like I should have.
But it's hog manure that, like you said, you can be clean head to toe. And if you're dealing with it every day,
you're so immune to it.
There's going to be, and plus it's going to be embedded in you too.
Yes.
It's just the way it is.
Your sinuses, your nose just becomes so used to it, it ignores it. So, but yeah, when we got out of the hog business, it was, probably about 1985. Hog prices had just plummeted. In the last 2 semi-loads of hogs that went down the road, my dad and I sat down and started figuring out, and we figured out, we lost almost $15 a head on those 2 semi-loads going down the road. The decision was made because the whole industry was changing. At that time, we were doing a lot through Heinold Hog Market, or it was Marengo Packing. Then it was Pork King. They were buying, but then they said, okay, we're going to buy only on our contract growers. The contract growers were coming in, and we decided we're going to get out.
Well, it makes sense, right? Yeah, and you got to look at their point of view too, because if they might be contracting 300 hogs a week. Or 200 hogs a week, or whatever that number was, and all of a sudden it's like you guys, you're shipping out 1,200 a year, and they're going to say, well, I mean, yeah, maybe if one of these facilities has a problem, then we'll come and see if you have any available for us, but you're not going to have 1,200 available or 500. No. You're going to have 50 here, 60 there, 30 over here.
We were at the point about every 3 weeks we were shipping. So, that's the time frames.
Right.
And it wasn't 200. It would maybe be 40 to 70
correct
at a shot. So there was a lot of variation, and the whole industry changed. That's when you got a lot of the contract growers going in. They're putting up new facilities. The money was there to put up the new facilities. But at that point in time, my dad and I were taking on a little more farmland. The grain end of it was a lot more attractive because you didn't have to be there every day to feed the pigs or water the pigs. Didn't have the water problems during the winter, which was always a headache.
Unless you're completely set up for it, it's a headache.
It would have cost a lot more to modernize to that point, and we could have, but it was, how soon does that investment pay for itself? I was getting ready to get married, so I wasn't going to be around that much. I was not going to be living right down the road.
It's not going to be you weren't going to be around that much. You just weren't going to be around as often as you were.
Yeah, I was not going to be there at 6:30 in the morning and be able to stay
until 8:30 at night, and then there's an issue, and then you got to go back over there at 10:30 because the water froze, and you got to replace that pipeline. I get it.
It was it was time. So we bailed out of that, changed everything over, got rid of pretty much all the hog equipment, took down fences, took down revamped buildings, gutted some stuff, made big bonfires.
Who doesn't love a big bonfire, right? So then you guys started getting into grain farming pretty heavily at that point?
We expanded that a bunch. Some land became available. Couldn't buy it, but we rented it for long-term leases, which worked out great. The one farm we got the lease on, I ran that right up until 2014.
It's a long time to
It's
run
a long
piece
time
of dirt.
from 87 to 2014. So it's a long time. But the guy that owned it loved us because we took care of his farm like he took care of it.
I was going to ask you, how did the crash of like 88, the drought of 88, and when farm ground plummeted and commodities plummeted down, how did you guys handle that situation?
Managed to survive it. Rode the bucking bronco. It was hard. Cut back on a lot of stuff. That drought hurt us.
You remember what some of your yields were? Usually something like that. I know the drought of 2012 when I was farming. I remember some of those yields. I was like, oh boy, and I still remember them.
I think we had some corn that barely broke 100.
Well, 100 is pretty good from what I understand back then.
Well, that was on some of our better ground. Had some that I think was 60, 70, and that was hurting a lot. That hurt us a lot because that was a tough year. That's also the year my wife and I had our first baby. So we got that going. It's like, oh yeah, we've got kids now, and it was a scramble. It was a scramble to make things work. And that was about the year I started doing. I started. I was doing crop insurance for being an adjuster for a company. And
you were adjusting crops?
Yes. And that was a tough year because we were all over. I was not fully trained up yet. They said, we need help to measure bins, walk fields, look at all the data that is going on. And I made decent money doing it. But
you needed it sounded like at that point.
Well, at that point, yes. There was farmers, fortunately we did not have a lot of land debt at that point in time, so we were able to defer some payments, just pay interest for a couple of years, and the lenders were willing to let us ride that for a couple of years. But we didn't have anything really hugely outstanding. So that made a big difference.
I'm sure it did.
There were a number of people I know that had just bought decent tracts, a couple 100 acres, and the lenders are going, no. You make your full payments. And they're like, There were a number of people who the banks went in and said, no, you're done. Game over.
I mean, I get it, right? I see both sides of it.
But
because you tell the bank, hey, I need you to buy this piece of dirt. So you buy the piece of dirt, and then you have a shitty year like that.
Yeah.
And then you sit there and go, well, gosh, I wasn't expecting this. And then the bank goes, I know you weren't, but you still owe me.
You still owe.
You wrote you signed this contract.
You signed the note.
You signed all this. You need to figure out a way to figure this out.
Pay this up. But ours were small enough, and we'd had enough payment history with the banks that.
Well, I'm sure having hogs and all that stuff truly helped out.
Oh yeah, that made a big difference for many years because the old saying was, "Pigs pay the mortgage," and they were. We got out of the pig business, upgraded some farm equipment, and our bankers were very lenient and said, okay, we're going to give you a couple of years, pay interest and pay maybe 20% of your principal payment every year for a couple of years, and then we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, they were giving you time to get back on your feet.
They were giving us time, and they did that with a number of people, but there were people that did not have that option, and
for whatever reason they didn't.
Too much money out, not enough payment potential.
Who knows?
Way beyond my.
I'm not a banker either, so
I'm not schooled in that kind of stuff. I know how to grow things and sell stuff, but yeah. So yeah, it's and ever since then I've always had something going, kind of on the side along for wintertime activity or something for 10, 12 years. I actually worked for Riley Township in the highway department, plowing snow, patching roads, mowing roads in the summer.
It's a good gig.
It's not a bad gig. It was not bad. It was part-time, so there's but it was it was strictly on call. So you get the phone call at 4:00 in the morning. Yeah, we're going. Okay,
I'm on my way.
I'm out the driveway, and go plow roads, and they've had a blast doing it.
Yeah, it's different, right?
Yes.
Because when you drive in and those roads ain't plowed at all, all the crappy spots.
You learn real quick where the ditch is deeper, and you learn real quick where it gets real rough real fast. So you have to, and you learn how far off from that set of electric poles you have to be to hit the edge of the road.
Yep, because if you get too far, it's going to suck you right in a ditch.
Yes,
and if you don't get far enough, you're not getting the whole road.
You're not
covered.
getting the whole road clear. And there was one winter, first time out for the year, 4 inches of wet, heavy snow. I found out that's when you find out when everybody's mailbox, whose ever mailbox is not fastened down to the post correctly, is going flying.
They're gone.
I put one about 30 feet up into the person's yard, and they called and they're mad. And we went out there and looked at it. Said, well, the homeowner says, "You hit my mailbox." We looked at it. There's no damage here. You just ripped it right off the post.
So for some people out there that don't know, if people are plowing the roads and snow causes your mailbox to come off its post, it post breaks, it goes in the ditch, whatever. If snow is the cause of that, whether it's from a blade on a truck, whether it's from high winds, whatever, the person responsible is the homeowner.
That is correct.
Yeah, now, if my plow hits your mailbox,
okay, that's on the driver.
Us. That's right. We'll stand behind that and fix that for you. But if snow hits it, that's not our baby.
It's yours.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Dan's Diesel Performance. If you're looking to improve your truck's performance, efficiency, or appearance, check out Dan's Diesel Performance. They manufacture turbochargers, fuel injectors, fuel pumps, transmissions, intake piping, and much, much more. Plus, they offer all the top brands in the diesel industry. They're located in Machesney Park, Illinois. Visit their website at dansdieselperformance.com or give them a call at 815-977-5865. But you always had some type of side gig, even when you were grain farming.
Yes.
That way you always had whether it was $5,000 a year or $25,000 a year, you still had some type of income.
I still had some income.
Offset some of the farming things.
Still had some income with, kids in high school and then kids in college. It's like, okay, it was always nice to have that extra. Finally gave that up, about 2011 with the wintertime side gig. Just got too busy and things happened.
Yep.
But, going into a little bit of my history, I started farming in 1975. I retired out in 2017. I loved it. I always told people I had the world's best boss and I had the world's biggest asshole for a boss.
Same guy, I bet, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, how can that be? I said, it was me. There's times, 2 hours in the morning, I'm done. I'm sitting there with my cup of coffee and the computer in the middle of winter, if I didn't have anything else going on. And, okay, I'm done for the day. There's other days I hit the floor at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm doing good to kick the boots off at 9:30 at night.
Or 10:30 or whatever the case may be.
There was more than once that when I was on the Farm Bureau board for 10 years, we'd have our board meeting, we'd get done at 10 o'clock. I'd come home and put on the grubby shoes and go check the grain dryers at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Just make sure they're running right.
Make sure
no fires and
make sure everything's going smooth.
Yep.
But it's all part of the business.
Yeah, it seems like in spring and definitely fall, it's just balls to the walls, right?
Yes.
Because in the springtime, you got to get that crop in. Oh, you got to get it in the right conditions. You want to the earlier you can get it in, more than likely the better yield you're going to get. That's not always true, but theoretically,
that's the general standard. And there's been more than once where I have pushed the limit getting the last of the corn in or some last of the soybeans in, and I'm watching the clouds off to the west, or the one time they were coming in from the southeast. That was a nasty storm in the spring. And I'm watching it come, and I keep going, okay, how fast is that moving, and how far have I got to go yet?
It's pretty funny. When you see rain coming and you're close to the end of the field, every planter becomes a high-speed planter.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Every one of them.
Oh, yes. It's just, okay, I'm going to move up one gear.
I'm just going to bump it one gear. And then you start watching the monitors and you go, well, it's doing fine.
Yeah.
And them clouds are rolling in a little quicker.
I can go one more.
I can get one more out of
it. There was one year I think I finished planting at about 9.5 miles an hour. And I'm like,
I ain't never done that. But
well, okay, this was the last half hour. And it was, the clouds were getting closer. I could start to see the lightning way in the distance. Okay, I've got 20 minutes. And I've got 15 minutes. And just, just go faster, go faster,
Come on.
go faster.
I've actually finished. I had one round left and it was just starting to sprinkle out. And I'm like, now I'm in a field that's probably, I don't know. It'd take you 15 minutes around.
Yes.
And I'm going, and since it's raining a little harder, so I just bump it up a gear, and it's raining a little harder. I get to the end, I'm like, mud ain't collecting on the gauge wheels yet.
We're
Turned
good.
around, I didn't make it freaking 100 feet, and I look back, and the mud's coming. I'm like, this is my last pass of the last field that we have to plant
this year.
I don't want to come back.
Yeah.
Clicked her up another gear. I was in the old 4440. I can't remember if I was in B1 and 2, and I ended up in C1 and 2. We were moving along.
Oh, well, we've all done it. Every farmer has done that at least once, and some will never admit to it. It's like, one more pass. The field I was on is 2/3 of a mile from the road to the back fence.
Oh,
so
boy.
We got a long one there. So, when you turn at the road to head back, you are committed to about a 20-minute trip. So, it's like,
You get that last round, and you're in the headlands. You go, this is going to take me 40 minutes. Can I beat that rain?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
I will do it or go down trying. But that pass, the mud did not start collecting on the gauge wheels until I was about 200 yards from the road end where I had to finish. And it's like, yes.
Good enough. Yes. You made it. As far as I'm concerned,
close enough.
Close enough.
There was one year we were doing corn, and it was we had to stop 3 days prior because it rained, worked this field up, and it's like, okay, it's a little touchy. And it kept clouding up and getting colder. It's like, it's going to rain any minute. Finished up. My dad was still alive. He came down to the field to grab me I took the tractor home, and I went down to grab my truck that had the seed bags on it. And he said, it doesn't look real pretty. I said, but it's done.
Now, I don't want the whole field looking like that.
No,
but if you got the last pass of the last round of the last field, I get it.
It was about 2 rounds that looked like that. So it's okay. It's done. It ain't pretty, but it's done. And then that night, we got 3 inches of rain. So I'm like, okay, did I do it right or did I do it wrong? That was the question. It's like, was this a good idea or not?
If it stays wet, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
If it gets hot and dry, you're going to pay every minute for it.
Yeah. But it stayed damp for a long time.
Because you were conventional, right? I mean, you worked the ground and everything like that. You weren't strip till.
We did not strip till. We were not no-till. We were conventional. Went more to minimum tillage as time went on with tillage equipment getting better. I remember going back when it first started, you had to disc every field in the spring twice, and then use the field cultivator on it, and then cultivate twice at least, according to my father and grandfather. But it's like, no.
Yeah, when they started coming out with the mulch finishers, with the disc blades in the front, and then your shovels or your sweeps, whatever you want to call them.
The sweeps on there.
And then the drag/rolling basket. Yeah. Once they started doing that, and that was probably in the 90s, is probably when they really started getting after that. It seemed like that did a heck of a lot better job.
It did a much nicer job.
With cleaner. One pass. Now, sometimes you can't get by with one pass.
Well, okay, there are times. There are
Absolutely.
days. There are days, but it's selective, and that's what we did.
I think it depended on the winter, too, from what I understand, because it's like if you had a harsh, cold winter, that would break those stalks and everything down in the field. So when you came back in the springtime, you really could hit it one time. And it really did a good job compared to if you have a mild winter. It seems like it just didn't break down as much.
The stalks did not break down as well in a real mild, easy winter. You wanted that cold, hard freeze-thaw system where it just shattered that stalk, or it would break it so brittle when you hit it, it just disintegrated. And that was perfect.
The other big thing, too, that I'll mention is corn has changed a lot since 1998 compared to 2018, compared to 2024.
Yes.
Back then you had a stalk as big as your thumb. That was a pretty good corn stalk. Now it's not quite the size of this water bottle.
You've got a stalk that is at the base almost an inch thick, and sometimes bigger, and it's bred and developed to hold its integrity through anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got stalks out there now that are surviving 2 years, which is also why you've changed the way we harvest. Used to just harvest, leave the stalks, they were fine, they'd break down. And of course, there was always the people that would use the stalk shredders and choppers, shred it down. Now you've got all that right on the combine head, and you're chopping that stalk up as you harvest, which is making it easier for it to break down now.
Absolutely.
And your minimum tillage and the tillage systems we're using, they're destroying that stalk even more.
Well, now a lot of vertical tillage tools are really great, and even these high-speed discs that they're using, because these stalks are breaking down more, and you're helping it break down more with chopping corn heads and things like that. So you can go out there with these minimal tills that only go down this deep and shatter it all up. You're right now with the chopping corn heads, you don't have a piece of stalk out there 15 inches long. You've got it 3 or 4 inches long, and that breaks easier. And then not to mention everything that's going through the combine is getting broke up because of the technology that they're using now with rotors and concaves and all these things that they're using just makes a huge difference compared to the old conventional straw walker type combines.
I remember those days well.
I think if we have all had them, we do.
We've all had that.
I know one thing with a straw walker machine, you don't combine green stuff when you're combining beans, whether it be a waterway or a fence line.
No.
Stay away from that.
Stay away from that because you're going to plug something up or you're going to hit. It's going to go, whoom, boom, 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 boom. The whole thing shakes and you go, where did I break this time?
Come on, baby. Get through.
Hope I didn't break anything serious this time. But
Because were you strictly a deer guy then? Or did you have a little combination of everything?
When I first started farming, we were all red.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get a first John Deere piece of equipment we got was a 7,000 planter. in the mid-'70s. That was, those things were just coming out. You couldn't find them. We found one, bought it, and it's like, wow, this is so nice. It's so neat. Had the bigger seed boxes, had the bigger, we're putting dry herbicide on at the time, granular, way back when. The farming has changed dramatically.
Big time.
Yeah. I know the one time I actually found the 3-bushel boxes for soybean seed for my 7200 planter. And my dad kind of looked at it and says, that's kind of stupid. And I said, no, it's not. He said, I'm going to be able to go a little farther. And he's like, oh, you'll never pull it. And I said, I've got plenty of power to pull it. And he said, oh, you're going to sink too deep. I said, no, I'm all right. Well, he kind of watched, and, the typical dad watching the kid with the new ideas. He kind of went, maybe you do know what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe that will work. And you think about that technology back then, and that was huge.
Oh, yeah.
And now today's planters
are just,
they're unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I have a chance. I've rented the farm out now and retired. I've ridden with the farmers that run the place, and I look at the monitors for the planters, and I'm going, okay, which one do we push to launch the space shuttle here?
Yeah, I mean, the technology that it tells you now is just unbelievable.
It's phenomenal.
From independent hydraulic suspension or independent suspension on each one of those boxes, row shutoffs, right?
Yes.
Each row can shut off as soon as you've planted something. You hit that mark, it shuts that row unit off. High-speed planters, right?
Yes.
They're using these big brushes and these big things so it can shoot that seed down and have the perfect spacing and everything at 6, 7, 8 miles an hour. Where back then, hell, even 20 years ago, it was 3 miles an hour or 3.2 if the ground was level and mellow, and maybe 3.4. Today,
we were hitting about, with our planters, we were hitting about 4.5 top end. And that's when everything was perfect, dry. If it was a little tacky in that, you were back to 3.5.
Or if you had root balls out there or whatever, and your boxes were bouncing.
You're bouncing. You're slowing way down.
Yep, you're slowing way down to get them things to even keel out, so you get that right depth on that. It's
amazing.
I keep up with this stuff all the time. I don't farm much anymore, but I keep much all this up on us all the time because I want to know what the next 20 years is going to look like.
I'm curious, but I'm afraid because it's leaving me behind now, being out of it for just a few years. But, okay. Another thing that I got involved with, I got asked to be on the McHenry County Farm Bureau Board in the mid-90s. And that was interesting. A lot of fun. The kicker was, after 2 years, I ended up being president. I wasn't quite ready for that yet, but I was the only one willing to run for vice president, and our president was Dave Gardner at the time. He got elected to the state board, and it was kind of encouraged that you not be an officer, not be the county president or vice president and be on the state board at the same time. So all of a sudden I'm thrown into being president, and that's when the fair was having all their hemorrhage and heart attack with land because the county had sold their property to Jewel, and
that's when the grandstands and everything had to get.
That's when all that was going on. So I was in on multiple meetings there. Made some people mad, but I spoke my mind. There was opportunities that I encouraged. They were ignored, so it's like, okay, fine. Your call. Your call. But got to work with a lot of neat people, got to meet some new people. One of the best experiences I had, or one of the craziest, I'm not sure which, was they did Leaders to Washington a couple times a year. Well, the one fall, I got to go to Washington, D.C., coat, tie, or suit and tie, the whole bit. Go see the congressman, go see the senators, go visit. The one morning Larry Anderson and I from Boone County had to go visit 3 congressmen. We went to see Don Manzullo, who was congressman at that time. Nice guy. Talked to his staffer more than but he came in at the tail end and had a nice...
Hey, how are you? What's new?
Well,
what can we do for you?
He was actually very concerned because he has farmland down near Oregon, family land down there. So he was very concerned. He was always very good to the farmers. So we're wandering. We have an hour and 45 minutes, something like that, before our next appointment. Now, at that point in time, nobody could say this guy's last name. Now everybody knows it. Our next appointment was an hour and 45 minutes with Rod Blagojevich. We thought, okay, what are we going to do for an hour and 45 minutes? Well, this is pre-9/11, so you could get around the Capitol complex a lot easier then. We're wandering around. We see a sign that says, oh, this way to Capitol Rotunda.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm like, let's go look. So we go in there, and we're at the bottom level, the rotunda level, and there's statues around there, and we're kind of looking at the statues. Okay, this is pretty neat. And we head down a hallway and said, oh, this way to House Elevator or House Gallery Elevator. So we're like, okay, let's go there. So we go in, put a small little elevator, push the button, go up, get around the corner. All of a sudden, there's 4 Capitol security guards, and 3 of them have their firearms pointed at us. It's like,
wrong button.
No, it's just, you stand real still, and they go, come here. Yeah. Hands on the counter. Okay. Yeah. It's one at a time. ID on the counter. Okay. Get the IDs out there, and one guy, he takes them, he gets on the phone. We're like, oh, man, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. All of a sudden, they get on radio. Guy comes out of the side door, and he's got a suit on that doesn't fit real good on one side, and a little squiggly thing in his ear. We're like, oh, this is not good at all. And he starts asking questions. And they bring our IDs back. And say, no, they're clean. Said, all right, how'd you 2 guys get here? We came up the little elevator over there. And he's looking at us, and he's giving us the dirty look, and he looks to one of the Capitol security guards and says, check it. Goes over.
They got a camera in there.
Yeah, there's a camera on upper end and lower end. And they said, yeah, come back. I said, yeah, it's active. The guy with the squiggly thing turns out to be Secret Service. And he's given us the evil eye. We're like, okay, you guys didn't do anything wrong. And he said, all right, I'm going to send somebody with you. You're going to go down to the Capitol cafeteria, have a cup of coffee, stay there until your next appointment. Okay, yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, whatever you want. Whatever you want. We got down to the cafeteria, and we're both curious.
Well, now you guys are sitting there like, okay, we were just following signs and doing what we thought wasn't wrong.
We explained this to the guy, and he said, don't worry about it. You're not in trouble. Somebody else is, because that elevator is supposed to be shut off. And I'm like, what the hell's the big deal? Oh, you 2 idiots walked within 20 feet of an unlocked door that on the other side of was the President of the United States. And I'm like, oh, man, somebody's getting fired.
Damn it. I knew we should have unlocked. I went through that door.
You wouldn't have made it. But, yeah, and I couldn't help saying that. And this Secret Service agent looked at me and he says, you know how right you are?
Because it was him.
No, it was somebody else. He said, there is an agent that's going to be fired within 20 minutes, if not already. He's off detail. You can't fire him from the service, but he's off detail. He's going to be somewhere, anywhere, checking.
And what president was that?
That was Bill Clinton. So we'd come within 20 feet of walking in on Slick Willie.
That's you won't get away with that today.
No. One, after 9/11, the whole Capitol security thing is just way more intense.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there several times since then. It is, you don't get from the house building to the Capitol area without going through 2 extra security points. You don't get into the Capitol without a special ID badge. It's gotten...
You don't get to be within 20 feet of the president. Hell, you probably don't get to be within 200 feet of the president.
I don't know. I don't want to know. It was just one of those things like, okay, this is just real interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty dang interesting. So you retired in 2017 from farming.
Yep.
How was that?
An incredibly difficult decision. I loved it. I wanted to keep going, but a couple of landlords had sold their farms and had 2 of them die within a 2-year period. And I tried to work deals with the new owners on both the people that had sold their property. They sold it to other farmers. So it's like, okay, I'm not getting that back.
You're not going to get
I'm
that
not going to get that back. The ones that died, I managed to keep that for a couple of years. But then when they were settling out the estate, they said, okay, we're going to sell the property. I asked, okay, do I get a chance at it? Sure, at the auction. I've been running this for 25 years. I don't get a first shot at it or anything. And they said, no. Okay. Well, it sold at auction, and it went well above what I could pay. So tried to replace land as I could. Yeah, couldn't quite do it.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know, when you lose a little over 400 acres and you manage to bring in 50, those numbers don't mesh real well. So hung on, stayed within the margins, finally got to the point of
lost too much
land. Margins weren't there. And I said, I've got to do something. So I started looking around for jobs. All right, okay, maybe I can work full-time, farm part-time. What I was finding was not suiting me real well.
It's a tough thing to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
especially in today's world.
Oh, yes.
25 years ago, you can make that work.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, absolutely you could.
Yeah, but I was, I was 59 at the time, sneaking right up on 60, and it's like, do I really want to kill myself in the spring and the fall to say I'm still farming and do this? And I finally got to the point of pulled the trigger, said enough is enough. Went to work for Conserve FS full time. My plan there was to work until I was 65 or so, and then say, okay, and pull the, retire out then. But my mother passed away my father had been already passed away for several years. My mom passed away. I inherited some land, inherited a house. Figured out, okay, I could actually just work part-time and make this all work. So when I was working full-time, I was actually down at Malta, Illinois, at the facility there, which a little bit of a drive, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, because you're south of Marengo, right?
I'm south of Marengo,
yeah.
So it really wasn't bad. But I found out later that when FS found out that I was going to be working for them, I was put down at Malta to observe and fix problems. Because there were issues there. There were a lot of issues there.
Well, I think if you look close enough at any business, there's going to be issues.
There's issues everywhere. But I was the new set of eyes, but I also was not the 20-year-old that was going to be manipulated by the powers that be in there. I was the second oldest person on the place and the newest.
Oh, great. We get to listen to this guy. Oh, this is going to be fun. No.
See, I did not work there the fall of 19, as I had fallen at home and ruptured my Achilles tendon, and I was in a orthopedic walking boot for 8 weeks.
I hear them really suck.
Well, okay.
Not the walking boot, the Achilles tendon.
Okay. I got lucky. Mine was ruptured, not torn or severed. Torn. If it's torn, it's automatic surgery and 6-month recovery. Yep. Ruptured, I got away with 8 weeks in the walking boot. So I'm like, okay, thank you, Jesus. We're having a good fall here.
That does sound lucky.
Yeah. But I walked in there after I got the walking boot, and I said, well, I will not be here this fall. Oh, we got your truck all set. And I walked around the counter, and I pointed down, and they went, are you sure you can't work for us? I said, I can't clutch with this thing. How are you? I can't even climb up in the truck with this thing. And they're like, oh, well, okay. I guess we'll survive.
Plan B, whatever Plan B was.
They managed. And then fall of 2020 with the whole COVID thing, they said, no, we're not having you come in. I said, I'm good with that. Because COVID was making the circles around down there. It seemed like every 3 or 4 weeks somebody else was out. And like, okay, I don't need this crap. So, yeah. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I met some really neat people. And there's several people that were sorry to see that in spring of 21, I said, I'm done. I'm not, after we finish up spring insanity, I'm not coming back.
So what are you doing now?
I have what I call a real retired guy's job. I started working for Cunis Auto Group, moving cars from one dealership to another.
Sweet.
So I work maybe 3 days a week. We get all of our jobs on an app. We put in, say, yeah, we want it. Or if I'm busy, no, I'm busy that day. I can't. Or like today, I said I could do it. I could do something in the morning, but there was nothing in the morning. They popped up one this afternoon, but it'd be till 5. I'm like, well, no, that's not going to work. So
you're here. I'm glad you got your priorities straight, Duane.
Hey, I haven't got to visit with you for a long time.
We've seen each other at the drawdown there at the Moose.
Yes.
Here a month ago or whatever that was already.
And that's been the first time in I don't know how many years.
It's been quite a few.
Yeah.
It's been quite a few. Because you didn't come into deer much after you quit farming.
Well, I didn't have to.
Yeah. So
I'd come in once a year to get a lawnmower kit or filters for my skid steer. But I think the last time I saw you was probably 21 when I bought a lawnmower from you.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be about right.
Yep.
So yeah, but for a long time I'd see
because that was what? That was an X540?
580.
580.
Yeah.
See, that was close.
Close enough. Close enough.
54-inch deck, right?
Yeah.
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 See, still got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably sold a few of those. A bunch.
I don't even know anymore. Yeah, that's when COVID would really taken a hit on us. We didn't have nothing for inventory.
Right.
We were struggling just to get by at that point.
Yes.
Because that would have been spring of 21, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it was like December of 20 or January of 21. That's when inventory really started hitting us hard. Yeah.
Things went, That's when everything got tight. Don't
get me wrong. COVID happened in March, April of 20.
Yeah.
But we had enough inventory, and deer had enough inventory. So if we need something, it was
there.
We could get it in 7 days or less.
It was
that
there.
time. It was like, oh, you need an X580 with a 54-inch deck, and you don't have one. Well, that's going to be 3 months, and we're like, what? Because they had a chip shortage. All that crap was going on. So we're just happy I could take care of you. That's what I cared about.
It works. I've still got the lawnmower. It runs great. We saw the same thing in the car industry. Inventory was down. Couldn't get the chips. In 21, 22. Things have loosened up quite a bit.
Yeah, since then.
Yeah. So it's working out well now. But there was a lot of shortages there. Yeah. But, back up a little bit in between the Farm Bureau and retiring, I was also on the board of directors for the Illinois Soybean Association.
I think I did know that.
For 6 years. I was on a standing committee for a year prior to my going on and for 3 years after. So I had 10 years worth of fun and games there. And some of it was fun and games. Some of it
sucked, I'm sure.
I did get to make some pretty interesting trips. One of the things that I sort of got thrown into, my second year on the board, they said, okay, we're going to put you on the aquaculture subcommittee. And I'm like, I don't know anything about aquaculture. They said, well, here's a couple of websites you may want to start reading.
Oh, God.
It worked out well. I became the go-to guy, not just for Illinois, but for almost the entire American Soybean Association.
No shit.
Group for aquaculture.
Oh, that's interesting.
There was.
So what did you do? Did you just do a bunch of reading on this and then go visit some facilities? Or?
Oh, yeah. I read, I studied, I talked to the experts. I got to visit a bunch of facilities. One of the neatest things I ever got to do was I'm sitting in Washington, D.C., at a meeting about 7 blocks from the White House. There's business leaders. There's people with multiple PhDs sitting at the table. And they're going, well, we should do this research. We should do this research. And I had a Ziploc bag with a handful of soybeans in there. Dropped the bag in the middle of the table. And I said, if your research project is not 55% related to those soybeans, you're not getting a damn dime. And the one lady said, well, you can't do that. And I said, I'm the one that signs the paperwork. Oh, yes, I can. I'm the one that controls your purse strings. And at that time, we were talking $6.5 million in research money.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I don't get to keep any of it. But it certainly got some attention. But with aquaculture, I came to Brazil, Panama, Guatemala, Mexico a couple of times, Colombia 3 times, and Cuba.
That's pretty cool.
It was neat. That Colombia was always, I was always a little nervous because of the reputation of the country. And one night I'm sitting in a hotel room and I woke up, got to use the restroom, and go to the window and look out, and there's the homeless herd walking down the street in front of the hotel. And I said, now I understand why they have an armed guard in front of the hotel and why they tell you, do not go past the steps because you may never be seen again. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go back and crawl underneath my bed and stay there.
I got to use the restroom, and then we're going to get back on aquaculture. Anyway, we were talking about
aquaculture.
Talk to me about this.
Okay.
Because this intrigues the shit out of me.
Okay. The aquaculture, you've got different ways to do it. One way is to have cages in seawater, in oceans and seas. The other way is to do freshwater cages in ponds, lakes, or total containment in fiberglass plastic tanks or concrete tanks that are
Makes sense
for freshwater, fully enclosed. I got exposed to both sides of it, had a ball doing it.
So what do they do then? So, I mean, obviously they're growing things in these things.
You're growing fish. You're taking fingerling fish, which is basically the length of a finger, and you're feeding them out to market weight and size. It varies with the fish.
Depending if it's tilapia or perch or cod or...
Yes, and they're using... we were doing the research and the funding, and my programming was primarily soybean protein, soy protein. So to grow them out faster, better tasting meat, quicker growth.
You were using soybeans.
Yes. Once again, they were funded by the soybean people. And it was interesting because when I first heard about this, I thought, well, you just call Purina and you order a ton of feed.
Well, that's kind of the way I was thinking. Like, well, call them up, have them delivered off in a semi truck, and you just start spreading it off the top, right?
Well, no, it doesn't work that way.
I figured it didn't.
No, it's not that simple. Different fish like their food a different way. Some will like the pelletized protein that they can eat or even eat off the bottom. Some like their food to kind of float, so like a flake. So they're all different. And I had the opportunity to guest lecture at an animal science class at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville and twice at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
Awesome.
Same professor. He liked the Platteville performance, and he said, hey, come on over. Can you come over next semester and talk to us at Madison? I said, yeah, I can. Let's work out a schedule. And my opening statement baffled him. I said, a fish is not a fish is not a fish. And people go, what? A fish, because different fish have a different digestive tract.
They do.
So, your meat eaters, your more carnivorous, they have one type of digestive tract. So that the feed has to be formulated to work for that digestive tract. The plant eaters, they've got a different tract. So it's got to be formulated differently.
And the bottom dwellers, same thing.
The bottom dwellers are the top feeders. They all want a little different feed type. So that got to be really interesting.
So you got to see all these different types of fish being grown then at that point, whether it was in the ocean, whether it was in ponds, whether it was in their own self-containment.
Yes. There used to be a big place west of Indianapolis that did aquaculture. They did fish just for restaurants in the Midwest. They had I want to say 80 by 200 building with about 30-foot diameter tanks in there, staggered, feeding yellow perch at different stages. And it was a lot of fun.
So when they get these perch, I mean, are they breeding the perch and everything right there? And then once they get to a certain size, they drop them in such and such tanks.
Yep.
Start feeding them. Move them.
No, they don't move.
They don't move them at all. So as soon as they get to full grown, whatever that is,
they scoop them out, harvest them. They don't have to.
Yeah, harvesting's right.
That's the harvest. It's harvesting. Harvest them, process the meat, flash freeze it in the container, and
out it goes.
Out the door.
Wherever the vendors are.
Wherever it's going. We did a research project with a guy who did a free-floating cage off the Hawaiian Islands, off the big island of Hawaii. They had Lockheed Martin designing the tracking systems. They had another company design the cages, and Illinois Soybean was providing funding for feed and manpower to monitor this thing. We went out there, whole board had a chance to go out and look at this thing. And it was a multi-year expensive project.
Yeah, I don't imagine that's something you just go, all right, 3 months, we're getting this thing ready to rock and roll.
No. It was more like we voted on funding it 1 year, and it was up and functional the next year. So we went out there, looked at it. Great, neat project. They were growing mahi-mahi out there.
I was just going to say probably mahi-mahi, right? That's very common.
That's very common out there. An easy fish to do, or not easy, but a very popular fish for the islands.
Yep.
A great market for it. But then 2 weeks after I was out there, I get a phone call. Oh, by the way, National Geographic is going to do a video program on this project, and we want you there. I'm like, I just got back, and I had time to
Yeah, you had time to make everything up that you need to make up. You were prepared when you went out there.
Yes. And they said, well, we still want you there. I said, okay, you do realize this is going to be a last-minute plane ticket. This is going to be last-minute hotel, last-minute everything. It's not going to be the same price you paid 3 weeks ago. They said, we don't care. We want you on site. Okay.
Darn, I got to go back to Hawaii. Son of a bitch.
Well, I call that the trip to Hawaii from hell. I left my house at 3:30 on a Sunday morning. I was back at my back door at 6:30 Wednesday morning.
Ooh, that's a quick trip.
Oh, God. But the reason they wanted me there is National Geographic was doing the video on it. I'm like, okay, National Geographic. So what? I get out there and I find out Professor Bob Ballard is hosting this segment.
No kidding.
Now, Professor Bob Ballard is the guy that found the Titanic. He does a lot of undersea research. So I got to spend 8 hours on a fishing boat with this guy, listening to his stories. I'm just going, oh.
Worth it. It might have been the trip from hell, but that would have been worth it.
Oh, that made the whole trip worth it. It was great. Listen to him tell stories for several hours, and I'm like, cool.
So did you have to give like your opinion on how the Illinois soybeans were going to impact the meat and all that kind of stuff out there, or,
sure.
or what was your?
I did a question and answer thing. Talk to the camera like we are now, and tell them what was going on, why we're doing it, what the benefits were, what the market impact would be for soybeans, and I thought I did fairly well. Well, it all ended up on the editing room floor.
See that garbage can over there? Yeah, that's where it's at.
But it was still fun.
Yeah, and that's a unique experience.
It was a great
experience.
There's
very, very few people in this world that got to do what you did there.
Yes, I know that, and I'm very grateful.
Wow.
But yeah,
that's some cool stuff, Duane. You're able to go to all these different places and learn about aquaculture and see that all up front, and not just that, but your time farming when it was hogs or grain farming. It's a pretty neat story you got, and it's unique to you.
Oh yeah. My mom used to say, you were the shy little boy that wouldn't say boo, and here you are going all over creation doing stuff. I'm like, I grew out of my shell, Mom. Well, that's a good thing.
That's not a bad thing.
No.
Because of that, look at all the cool places that you've been.
I've had a lot of fun.
It's not over yet either. No. You got a long way to go.
Oh no, I'm still doing stuff. I have regular contact with 5 people who have been president of the American Soybean Association. I call them my friends. The one guy down in Texas, he calls me his brother from another mother. When Wade and I get together, alcohol is involved and it will disappear.
Now, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you guys get together very often if he's from Texas.
Oh,
so
no.
when that happens.
It happens. Yeah. He last time I saw him, he just, hey, you come with me. We're going to have us a little sit down, and he still wants me to get back involved with Illinois, and I'm like, no, I'm done. I've had my ride. I'm over. I wish I would have been able to do more there, but
you enjoyed it. You learned something.
I had a blast doing it.
Good.
I had a blast doing it, and that's the whole thing. I always figure you get one chance at the ride, make it count.
Agreed.
So yeah, Agreed. I had a ball. I had a ball doing it.
Perfect. We've been going way too long. This is going to take me way too long to edit. So you can come back another time and we'll do another one. But
we'll do another one someday.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's been fun. It's been good to see you,
Duane. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. Until next time. All right.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.